And the tragedy of having a philosopher talking so late in the day. I think I'm being placed at this stage because we in our profession have been answering the question, what do you do when there's nothing else to do, very well already 25 centuries ago? You philosophize, of course. You go on a holiday and you start thinking. So I think I represented that only category probably that will support any possible machine invasion, because that was plan A since we started doing all this. Having said that, a bit of philosophy at this stage might help us to see, during this very rich day, a different angle of all the topics we covered. Philosophy normally has that attitude of not letting the bone go. It's like a dog. No, it chews their bone and it keeps chewing, which transforms itself into not looking at topics on the surface, skipping from how wonderful life will be in that place to how extraordinary, beautiful the other place will be at the same time. But more like drilling and drilling and drilling. And how do you do that? By not stopping with the first instance of if, then. That's what normally I tell my students is one of 1,000 forms of intelligence. You are intelligent if you can, among many other things, follow on. If A, then B. If B, then C. But if C, then. And you keep going until you start reaching some bottom, some rock-solid ideas that, no, look, we can't drill any further. So I want to do a little bit of drilling here on being human in an artificial world and what it means to be made a little bit redundant, in a way, by these new machines. Who we are, how we're going to be transformed. And I'll start by telling you that this is not what I'm going to talk about. I wish this were the problem. If we had Terminator, Skynet, and all that science fiction coming soon, then I would sleep soundly, because that is science fiction. The artificial intelligence that we have today is as intelligent as my grandmother's fridge. Nada. Zero. It's as stupid, in other words, as this little thing that I have in my hands. Oh, but he plays chess better than you. So? So does my car. When he runs much faster than me, it doesn't mean that he has legs, or he runs like I do. So we shouldn't get confused about this, but maybe more, if you like, during the Q&A. But let's take this step aside. Why the digital is making such a big difference? How does the artificial intelligence make such a big impact on us? Well, because the digital, and we will not have time to look at this deeply today, but cuts and pastes, unglues and glues together a lot of things and concepts on things that we have inherited from, shall we say, the 19th century, the 20th century, what philosophers like to speak in terms of modernity. So modernity has given us, say, just one example, location and presence as something that were glued together. That's why we have a branch of a bank. You go there and you interact with the bank. Well, the digital has unglued that. You are located somewhere, but you're present, say, on Facebook. That's why that branch is disappearing. Or modernity gave us a sense of a personal identity that today is being transformed by us being data subjects. I could go on, but that's not for today. Just remember, what does digital, anytime you think about, oh, how does the digital change my world? Oh, it cuts and pastes things that I assume were not subject to cuts, or were not subject to paste. Well, what about artificial intelligence? What there is, and I hope this is no news for you, is a divorce. It's not a marriage. It's a divorce between the ability to perform a particular task, to fulfill a goal, say play chess, from the need to be intelligent. That's why that is successful. If we had waited for that iPhone, with which I always lose when I play chess, unless it's late at night, because then I get upset and I lower its standards, and then I finally win, and then I can finally sleep. You know, that's the human being in me. But unless that happens, if we had waited long enough to make sure that the thing had to be intelligent first in order to play chess successfully against anyone in this room, we would be still waiting. It's precisely because it doesn't have to be intelligent that it does what it does very successfully. So how does it come that then it works so well, all this AI? Well, these are the elements that made a difference. Lower cost, a lot of cheap computation, amazing computation, more data all over the place, more and better machine learning, that thing that does again and again and again and again, like only stupid people do, no? If you see someone looking at 1,000, 10,000 pictures of a cat and finally saying, that's a cat, that's not a sign of intelligence, is it? But that's how the machine learning does it. You say 10,000 and then finally, or he plays, as we read today in the Financial Times, millions of games against himself and he finally plays so well Go. Oh, wow, that's remarkable, better algorithms, of course, more Internet of Things, more on life, us living online and offline together. So this is what's happening to us today. We are living in a dishwasher. What that means? It means that we have built a whole world around the simple abilities of that robot. This is a bit silly, and it's actually science fiction. Is the robot coming, taking away jobs, etc. And this is what I want for Christmas, because I'm the interface at the moment between the kitchen and the dishwasher. I am the one with a human brain, which is a bit of a waste, honestly, to pick up the dishes and put them in the dishwasher and then back again. And that's an arm that has transformed, if you look top right with the camera, the whole kitchen into a big enveloped environment. So this, you see, it was written for us and for the machine. But this is the world in which we live. This is written only for the machine. We are transforming, enveloping the world around robots that read this stuff and do what they have to do. I mean, and I don't mind. In that sense, we kind of back where we were. This was grandmother, doing some computing with a screwdriver in a big room called the computer around her. Her daughter get a different sense of what a computer is. She got out of the room, but her granddaughter, she's back inside. She's on life, neither offline or offline all the time. In that sense, she has no sense of being in a big computer unless it stops working. At that point, you're going to run like, there's no connectivity, there's no connectivity. Oh, well, then now you know where you are, or where you were, rather. So we live in an infosphere, the space made of information around us, and there we share the environment with a lot of other agents. This was the past. A few mechanical things and some horses. This hasn't been with us for a long time. This is present/future, and this is also present/future. This little robot, as you know, has been already tested in the streets of London to deliver food, mail, by Amazon. So we are sharing the environment with this agency, which is not intelligent, but it does increasingly more and better, lots of things. And don't get me wrong, the sky is the limit. It doesn't do that like us. So I'm not saying, oh, the AI one day will not be able to do X. There is no real X that AI cannot do. It might not be financially convenient, or it might be just too complicated. The point is that it doesn't do it as we do it. So not intelligence there. So what is it? It's like a huge reservoir. If we were in the computer science department, I would use the word heuristics, basically techniques to solve problems. So imagine you have electricity, a huge reservoir of energy there. You go and plug stuff in, and it's for maybe the razor, for me in the morning, or the computer, and so on. Well, imagine now that reservoir being a reservoir of agency. And that agency is like a tab. You just turn it on and off, depending on whether you need to find the cheapest ticket for a particular show or the next fridge online. So what are the challenges, not of Terminator and stuff, but the real challenges that we're going to face when this reservoir is going to be around us? Because at the moment it's in the hands of about 7 companies. The usual suspects: Amazon, Facebook, Google, IBM, DeepMind, etc. There are not many, but one day, and it might be next time we meet here, is around the corner. Fingers crossed, I'm going to see it. It will be like electricity, available to anyone. So here is a quick tour, and I'm going to, because we have 10 fingers, I'm going to summarize that in 10 points. Had sort of evolution gone differently, would have been a different number. We are human interfaces. This gentleman, his job is gone. He was an interface between me and the elevator. This lady, her job or her task is probably going because she's an interface between a GPS and a car. And this guy, his job is secure. for as long as we had that badly designed thing called car. Because we forgot that someone had to put the oil in the car, and so we have 1 billion plus cars in the world that today, as we speak, someone, a human being, has to pick up the thing, put it in, put it back. Congratulations. We have robots on Mars. But this has to be done by a human brain, which is immensely wasteful. The lady here has been replaced, but not by a robot or anything. It's replaced by me. I don't know about here in Berlin, but in Oxford, I'm the one who scans the beans now. Oh, thank you for the human interface now has just changed position. It's been not replaced, but relocated. I'm the one who does their job now. But there are plenty of other interfaces we have no idea about. And those are the new jobs in the future. So don't get me wrong, there's something to be sort of optimistic about. We heard a lot about jobs. Well, these are the facts. On the right-hand side, the job market in the United States. Predicted by some colleagues in Oxford, they decided that law didn't make any difference. So the jobs are polarized between totally secure, say a philosopher, and totally gone, say the lady at the supermarket scanning the beans. On the left-hand side, welcome to Europe, Finland. Same analysis, same data, more or less, different result. Why? Because in Finland, we took into account legislation. How many trains do you know that go without driver between, say, Berlin and Munich? Exactly. How many buses will be there? Well, because it's not legal. Oh, it's not legal. Oh, so there's something to be said about the legal constraints. So when on the right-hand side, people say, well, the cab driver, the job is gone. Oh, unless the law says that there has to be a cab driver, you never know. Lots of stories. Dependency, that's the ticking bomb on which we are sitting. Those who live by the digit may die by the digit. We have this sofa called smart cities. I know there was a previous talk talking about it, so I need to be careful about it. But just in case you have a taste for realism, we're sitting on these things. And if a leg goes, in other words, if the computational systems behind are not built to be resilient, to be robust, to be there for the B plan, well, this is going to be really painful. And if something goes wrong, what happens? Who is going to pay? Who is going to get the responsibility for this? Well, in a digital context where AI starts doing little things for you and for me, say pay the bill or repair that particular thing or scan that or, well, at some point, that decision would have been taken by a system where things are a little bit distributed. If you don't get a mortgage, and that is already yesterday, so no science fiction here, no smart cities of the future here, not utopian places where there is anything for everybody no matter what. But if today you go to a bank, you get a denial, you said, sorry, your mortgage has been rejected. That decision has been taken most likely, almost entirely by a piece of software. Who is responsible for that if there is a mistake? Don't know, not quite clear. Democratization of AI in any pocket. Well, that's the future. By democratization, I don't mean the political sense. I mean the computer science meaning of distribution in the whole population. Well, once we start democratizing AI in any pocket, meaning that this little thing I have, like there's a cinema tomorrow, best thing, Blade Runner, go. And the whole thing does it for me, that kind of level where there is no science fiction, the real stuff. Well, what happens if the actual guy there is not exactly Luciano, say, but is organized crime that is looking for your ID at the usual bank? Well, identity theft today is, shall we say, a tailor-made service. But once we have AI in any pocket, it will be an industrial enterprise. Are we planning this properly? Are we thinking about this in time? Are the companies developing this, taking the right steps? The impact of AI. Now, I know that there's a green, positive story to be told about this, but look at the bottom. There's a dark, and you don't have to read all that. I mean, that would be a test beyond Superman. But just look at the two arrows. The very dark at the bottom, the little bit, and the very bright at the top. The bottom is how much does it cost to run all this? And guess what? It's electricity. It has to come from somewhere. Now, it doesn't happen anymore because we have these wonderful laptops which they don't heat up anymore. I don't know how they do it, but good old days when we were slightly younger, shall we say, it burned your thighs if you put them there, say, on the wrong day. And that is Newtonian physics, that entropy, that is energy being consumed. It comes from somewhere. That's the damage we cause into the environment. That's how much it costs to have the light green. So this is a balance, it's a trade-off between how much we are harming the world in order to save it. It's like curing someone with cancer. And I hope you don't have that experience near you. I had, and it's not pretty. You try to save the patient by killing the cancer first. So here we are trying to save the planet by making sure that the dark side doesn't counterbalance the light side. The real variable here, time. The hope that there's enough time for the light to make a difference as opposed to the dark. Do we have enough time? I'm not so sure. A generation, maybe two? I told you it was not going to be terribly optimistic on this. Management of complexity, we heard this, and I agree with the previous presentation. We're going to live more and more in complex as in complicated. Well, complexity is a serious word. Just use complicated. Everybody's complex these days. No, that's a computational sense. It's just difficult. Well, these are enormous systems that need a lot of management. Now, it's a good thing, because since we left the caves, we have managed complexity with more complexity. Don't tell me that writing is less complex than shouting to someone. It's just that it was safer, so that someone could read that later, etc. So this complexity is building on complexity. Do we have a plan here, or is just pay as you go, as it were? And then human freedom. This is just one of the many software that are being used by the police as we speak, certainly in the UK, a long time ago already in the United States. I don't know about Germany, I hope not, where we try to predict the future by looking at the past, ignoring the fact that we are free to change course, meaning that this will try to predict whether someone is a terrorist by, well, what they're actually doing, or someone is going to commit a crime by looking at what they did in the past. Again, human freedom, is it being taken at the center? Is it what driving the whole analysis, or is it what is being curtailed for safety, for security, for other reasons that, as we heard today, are actually undermining what we want to save? So you want to save democracy, and by doing that, you're actually undermining it in order to. Well, that doesn't make much sense, but no, a philosopher, what can I say? Logic is not a distributed value. Adaptability, what you see there is called programmatic advertising. And if you haven't never heard of that, that's a good trick by the industry, because it's what lies behind any advertisement you see online. In that fraction of a second, companies are fighting for your attention. And how do they do that? By bidding. They're bidding in a fraction, etc., for a fraction of some money. And how much does it all cost, all their system? 2017, 33 billion. That's a lot of money that goes into making sure that you look at those shoes as opposed to that particular car. Now, speaking of basic income, and sometimes I have my reservation, but sometimes some people say, well, there's no money around. Maybe. Maybe this could be better spent than making me distracted. Shoes, car, shoes. Car. But that's adaptability for us. All of this ends up with our exceptionalism. Who are we here? Copernicus thought that we were at the center of the universe. Of course, that went. Then Darwin taught us that we're not at the center of the animal kingdom. We're not at the center of the mental life either. That's Freud. And Alan Turing has just taught in the last 50 years, shall we say, more or less, that we're not at the center of the infosphere. Remember what I introduced at the beginning? We're not at the center of this space made of information. There are other things that handle that information faster, better, more effectively, more proficiently than us. So what about us? In what way are we special? And I'm coming to the end of my talk. Well, for a long time, we philosophers, not the people, not we the people, no, the American Constitution, we the philosophers, have been thinking we're so cool. We're really the cool thing about this universe, or the Earth, well, Europe, well, let's say just Athens, okay? So wherever is going around, if I'm white, male, Athenian, and bear arms, then I am the best thing that this planet has ever created. Call me Socrates or something. Okay? So, well, that sort of identity has been challenged again and again and again. And instead of thinking of ourselves as a plus, as a more, as a super cool, for the aficionados here, the bazinga kind of moment, I know that doesn't say anything to most of you, but if it doesn't, just check it online. So if we are not the bazinga, what are we? Well, we are minus. We are a deficit. We are a hole in the fabric of the world. We are the ones who ask questions. And you ask questions only if you feel that there's something not there, that you're missing. And that missing, trust me, it will never be fulfilled. So we're more like a glitch, I think, rather than a beautiful, super cool thing. We're not a feature, we're a bug. It's the bug of the system that survived. Well, that's pretty interesting. That's winning the lottery, essentially, as a beautiful glitch. We better see ourselves as natural informational organism. Yes, today, in this century, not in the past, maybe not in the future, but today we look at ourselves informationally. But we're very fragile. Remember those 10 points? It's like putting very strong agents, robust, stubborn, that they do things 24/7, with very fragile creatures that they don't want to work, they're lazy, easily influenceable, malleable. Oh, you need to be careful about that. We are fragile. In that sense, AI should be friendly towards the beautiful glitch. It's a simple thing, meaning that we have to have a design that is value-driven for agency, not money-driven, not profit-driven. Just think for a moment. Value-driven. So I don't care about how much advertisement we might be exposed to in terms of how wonderful that technology will be in the future in any place of the world if that is driven by more money. No, values, for example, freedom or political freedom to speak in that particular country, for example. And if you can't speak in that particular country, that is not a country I want to live in. And the opportunity cost, because we're spending so much time and memory and space and human resources in making sure that you look at those shoes, not their car. Here, AI should be really an amazing force for good. With this, what we should do? Well, think deeper. That's what you expect of a philosopher. Stay on the problem. Don't rush. Just stay. Stay on the problem. Think more. And if you're just in doubt, think even more. Design better, because this is the age of design. And this is your only chance to give to the future a good society for which future generations will be grateful, looking back and say, thank you, as opposed to like, what have you done? And be mindful, not careful, not avoiding risk, but mindful. Think about what is really going to happen, not to you, not to a neighbor, but to all the millions of people who will live after us. In that sense, the age is the age of design. It should be the age of good design, and therefore there's plenty of things to do. Thank you.
Luciano, can I ask you one question, if you don't have a burning one? I have one on my lips. I learned from design companies that they really take AI to develop design to a very high extent, is one scenario I have in my mind. The second scenario I have is the two computers, I think they were called Bob and Alice some weeks ago, designed by scientists. They started to speak in English, and after a couple of minutes or whatever, they tend to speak their own language. And nobody understood where they were heading, and they plugged them off. Is that a box of a Pandora, you think, as the media put it, or is it just rubbish?
Rubbish.
To get around humans?
It's rubbish, especially this stuff about, you've been exposed to, we all been exposed to the usual mass media. Oh, they unplugged because they were started. No, just Google it. It's as simple as that. Don't read the first newspaper, big, and you discover that, first, we've been doing this for the past 60 years. It's called putting the two agents, we do this faster today, one against each other to, for example, exchange, if I remember well the experiment in question, hats for shoes or hats for books. You try to give them some vocabulary, which you put into the two agents, in this case, English. At some point, by interacting with each other, the two agents, instead of using a whole sentence, give me the book, it just says book or b or bug. It becomes useless. So the experiment failed. The particular researchers in question, it happened twice, with Google and Facebook. They applied the whole thing like, okay, experiment failed. They didn't quite work because we wanted to develop some agents with a bit of intelligence, competitive analysis, where some get more books and some others get more other stuff. It didn't quite work, so we just unplug it. Result, just a bad design, nothing happened. And all that blah, 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 oh, they speak, oh, for goodness sake, just run a little example. Just go online and check Turing test. You ask a question to a piece of software on the other side or a human being. You don't know who is who. Mm-hmm. And you have 5 minutes to discover whether he's a human being or not. I was the judge the first time he came to the UK. And just ask him, for example, what can you do with a pair of shoes? Computer, wear them. Human being, nail something to the wall. I can play with the little soldiers. It could be a little house. I can stop the door. Now, who is the computer and who's a human being? Oh, let me think. No, now you are not passing the Turing test, if you ask that question. So, relax, everybody. And above all, don't get distracted. We have plenty of problems.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.